Tim Bright, County Engineer.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
You'll remember back in August, we accepted proposals from several engineering companies for the various road projects in our road expansion project, or plan that we have. We negotiated those contracts, had them all finalized around the end of October, which makes this our first quarterly update. So as I guess a thing to the public, to make sure that the public understands that we are committed to doing this in a timely manner, we are asking that the engineers come up every quarter to inform the board and the public as to what progress that they have done in the previous 3 months, and also to let the board and the public know what they plan to do in the next 3 months. So that's what we're going to do now. First engineer coming up is going to be Stantec, and they're going to discuss Calhoun Station Parkway.
Okay, thank you, Tim. And while Brad is coming up, I'm just going to ask the board, if we will, just listen to your presentation, and then we'll have a time to ask questions once the presentation is over for questions. So, Brad?
Good morning, members of the board. Thank y'all for having us here on this cold morning. My name is Brad Ingles. I'm with Stantec Consultant Services, and as you mentioned, we are working on the Calhoun Parkway project, which is approximately a 2-mile project from Stout Road to Highway 22. To date, we have completed the topographical survey and have collected the field data for the geotechnical report. Anticipation for the next board meeting, we anticipate to complete the conceptual design as well as the geotechnical report. We will fit the final design within the existing right-of-way that the county owns, which is approximately 125 to 250 foot. We do not anticipate any utility relocations. Again, we will understand more of that as we finish the conceptual layout. We hope to be, you see the new schedule that we provided. We intend to have this under construction hopefully next summer. That's all I have. Y'all have any questions for me?
Questions for Brad? I just want to reiterate, you said it's a 2-mile stretch,
Yes, sir.
and we're looking at 4-lane in this?
That's the hope, is the 4-lane.
We're looking at 4-lane, and the right-of-way has already been purchased.
Yes, sir.
So there's no right-of-way to purchase, so we should be seeing some action out there this year, later on this year sometimes then.
Well, hopefully we can make that happen.
Okay.
Depends on once we went from reconstruction to widening, the other issues that we may run into, environmental permitting and stuff like that we kind of have to foresee, but hopefully that won't slow things down.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brad, for the
Yes,
update.
sir.
Construction is summer 26.
That is our goal.
All right, awesome.
Hopefully before then, but that's
Yeah. So not this summer, next summer.
yes, sir.
Other
Fantastic.
questions? Thank you, Brad.
Thank y'all.
One thing I failed to mention is that each of you have notes for each of these presentations in front of you. The public has access to these on the agenda website as an attachment. Next item I have is the Stribling Road from 463 to DeWeese. This is Garver.
Tim. Good morning, board members.
Good morning.
My name is Shannon Wells with Garver, and this is my first update on Stribling Road from 463 to DeWeese Road. And as Brad mentioned, it is also a 2-mile stretch similar to his project. There, page 2, for the sake of time, I'll skip that for now and cover it in my notes on page 3. But mainly environmental and survey are the primary updates that I have today, where we made the most progress, even though we have the ball is rolling on utilities and other things as well. But on page 3, I'll go into these in more detail. Some of the information that the board requested regarding our contract notice to proceed was November 4th of last year, and our not to exceed contract value and the amount invoiced to date are provided on that page 3 of that sheet. But to go over current progress in the last 2 months on the survey end, we have completed topographic design surveys, as well as determination of right-of-way. On the environmental end, our field work is complete. We are working on the report. We've completed delineation of the wetlands, and what we found is not significant enough in our opinion. We're going to propose to the Corps. We submitted as a nationwide, which is good news. It's the faster track of the permits. No threatened or endangered species, according to Fish and Wildlife. The Departments of Archives and History did respond to us, and they want us to do a cultural resources survey. So we have selected an archaeologist, and that ball is rolling. On the utility end, we spoke to a representative of every utility company listed on the 811 request, and based on a worst-case scenario, which is complete relocation, we received various timeframes of relocation, ranging from 6 to 18 months. There was one particular utility that was further out than the others, but that was the best they could give until we give more detailed information as the design of the road progresses. Traffic study is necessary. We're doing a capacity analysis to determine whether we need it to be 4 lanes or 5 lanes in consideration of safety as well. We've collected the traffic count data, and we're projecting our volumes and developing that model. On the geotechnical side, field work has begun. On the roadway design side, we have begun developing the preliminary alignment and we've had that established from beginning to end. In some places, we're matching the road, and some places we're going to deviate as needed to cut down on the impacts to utilities and right-of-way. On the right-of-way side, the preliminary design is not enough along to give an exact number, so I believe the value that I gave in the project approach discussion was around 80 to 100 lots. That's still where I am, which would be approximately a year to year and a half process. However, since then, I did pull several subdivision plats and determining the width of right-of-way that's existing, plus the common areas that we have to work with. I believe about 2/3 of that number will end up being, I'm optimistic, will be more realistic. So I think that phase will be closer to a year than 18 months. But in April, I'll have a better report on that. So going through projecting the next 3 months for the sake of time, on the environmental side, I anticipate completing the report, submitting it to the Corps. I'll abbreviate the JD from the Corps. I anticipate that be an issue, which is basically their concurrence with our findings, which will allow us to begin developing the wetland permit. On the utility side, just continue to collect information. We didn't get a whole lot of locate on the ground, which is expected because they typically respond to more urgent requests such as that are construction related. So I'm using as-built and GIS information. I'm going to continue to put that information on paper, meet with them to determine more accurately where they're at, so I'll know whether they're in the way or they're out of the way. On the traffic side, and on the traffic study side, I anticipate that being complete and knowing for the next report what our geometry looks like from a horizontal standpoint, 4 lanes or 5 lanes basically. On the geotechnical end, if the report's not complete, very, very close, obviously the field work will be complete at that point. And on the roadway side, my goal is for the next meeting, to have a better idea of the extent of what I'm impacting, determination of cut and fill, so we can complete the environmental process and more accurately communicate to utilities, as well as get the right-of-way acquisition process further along as well. That's all I have. If y'all have any
Okay.
questions for me.
Good update. Questions from the board?
You said you had to bring an archaeologist in. I could see that on a brand-new road, but this is a road
Right.
widening. Why would you have to do that?
Well, the way it works, when you submit, this comes from the desktop, you submit to Archives and History where you're located. It's a 2-mile stretch. It just basically flags their database, and that doesn't mean we're gonna have anything to deal with, but it does mean they want us to go out, send someone. They'll probably dig some holes in places, and develop a report, and that doesn't mean there's gonna be a problem. But I understand why you think that way.
Well, okay, tell us, when you're planning on going to construction.
The schedule still shows just shy of 3 years, 2 years, 9 months. which is, mid-27.
Assuming the archaeologists don't discover.
That's
it.
right. And I do think, like, for instance, we're doing what we can to compress the schedule. For example, the environmental end, you'll notice, it doesn't look like much of an update because I'm showing the same length of time, but that's because there's two government agencies I haven't submitted to, and they're in the critical path, but I'm optimistic that'll be shorter because we're further along than I thought I would be when I
With the-
talked to you in the fall.
With environmentals, I'm just doing this for the public, with environmentals and construction, what's the total cost of the estimation of the project?
I'm not far along in the design to know how much the project will cost to give an accurate number. Like, for instance, I don't know how wide the project is, like the number of lanes or the amount of dirt we're moving. I can have that available at the next update.
Okay,
I can provide an estimate of that.
Appreciate it.
At the intersection of 463 at Stribling, have you been in communication with MDOT and what they're planning on doing at that same intersection?
We have. I've requested, I actually have the files. The traffic study was what we used to, we're using that information to project volumes, but we also received the computer files for their design, so we can tie into that properly. But we're also gonna analyze specifically because they tied in to existing Stribling, not proposed Stribling.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so we're gonna look at, like, for instance, one thing we're studying, the Hartfield entrance is so close to 463. You know, are we good with one receiving lane on the Stribling, or are we gonna need a second one? Those are the kind of things that our traffic study will tell us. But yes, to answer your question, yes, we've,
Now, I've noticed quite a bit of utility work going on, a lot of new utility poles, and is that something we're gonna end up having to pay for to move at this time?
that could depend on whether or not they're in easements or whether or not they're in your right of way. Then we don't have that accurately determined just yet. I know the power poles are obviously within the right of way because they're not very far off the road. I know CMU, their water lines east of McMillan are in private easements. I do know that, but I think we can, they're mostly up on top of the hill. I'm planning on staying off of them. Bear Creek said that some of theirs is on private easements, some of theirs is probably in the right of way. I couldn't, until I know more to give them, they couldn't give me much better than that. But they do have, Bear Creek has a lot. They have water and sewer in the area. CMU at least just has water through my project.
Okay. Other questions from the board? Shannon, appreciate the updated, very good update,
Thank you.
detailed. Thank you.
All right, now we're gonna detail the other end of Stribling, which is from DeWeese to Catlett, and Representative from Michael Baker is gonna do that.
Good morning, board.
Good morning.
My name is Jay Stewart. I'm with Michael Baker. And like I said, we have the extension from Shannon's job from there at DeWeese all the way to Catlett Road. So far, the work performed in the last quarter was, we've set the survey control. We're probably 75 to 80% done with the topo survey. We have reached out to 811, so we're still awaiting their marking so we can pick up the utilities. Therefore, once we figure that out, we will know what kind of impacts. The stuff that we anticipate doing this quarter is, obviously, we'll start our survey map, our property map survey, and which we also plan to start our conceptual design at the beginning of February. At that point in time, we will be able to probably move forward on our traffic study the end of this quarter, and our soil testing later on, either this quarter or possibly the beginning of the second quarter. And we have estimated there is 72 properties along Stribling Road through this area, but until we get our conceptual layout done, we're not sure on the number of impacts. And the same goes, as you heard from Shannon on the utilities, we'll be able to get that impact as we go further along. And if you notice on the second page, I showed some milestones for the Phase A portion of the project, which we want to have conceptual review plans by April 25th. And then, of course, that'll feed just right into the field review and being able to get final right-of-way plans in November of this year. And as you heard before, we're estimating it'll be 27 before construction would start. But that's pending on, obviously, the right-of-way utilities and everything you just heard. So, that was a short and quick first summary, so if y'all have any questions,
You got a construction date that you're planning on starting?
just, as of now, we're anticipating 27, just sometime maybe the spring of 27 or summer. But it's, at this point, it was way too early to tell.
You got an archaeologist involved?
Our environmental person will be getting involved after, as soon as we have a layout, our preliminary layout, and then he'll come up and see what all has to be. I'm sure they'll have to have one to sign off on it, but there's nothing out there.
Is that a state law? What?
I believe that's state and federal.
They gonna give you a grant for it,
Yeah.
Trey.
Jay, appreciate the update. Supervisor Baxter, any other questions from you? Okay. Jay, appreciate the update.
All right,
Very
thank you.
good. Tim, one thing that, just thinking about the last two updates, as we go along, we want to make sure we communicate this to the homeowner associations that will be affected, whether it's on Stribling, Yandell, or whichever project. So we want to make sure our next update that we have information to be able to give to the HOAs.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Supervisor Baxter, his project would more likely affect the archaeologist than Garver's, because his is gonna be on new alignment in certain areas, so he's going off of the existing roadway. So his will definitely have the archaeologist involved. Next project we have is Weisenberger Road. This will be Neil Schaefer's project. So, okay. Representative?
Thank you, Tim. Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Speaking of cultural resources survey, I've got a project that just got kicked to a phase 2 cultural resources survey, so it does happen from time to time.
Yeah.
And you have to dig a little bit deeper, and it takes a little bit longer, so.
Okay.
It can be overcome, though, or worked with. So, I'm Keith O'Keefe with Neil Schaefer. We have the Weisenberger Road Improvements Project. The date of our contract is December 4, 2024. You see the contract value in your handout there and what we built to date. So we're just getting started. We've begun the topographic field survey, the environmental assessment, the conceptual design, and we have coordinated with Canadian National Railroad regarding these impacts. That's going to be ongoing for quite a while in terms of coordination with Canadian National. It's a process in itself. Before I go over the project schedule, I want to mention several challenges to this project. It is a little bit unique. You know, there are about 12,000 vehicles a day on it right now. It is a critical link to I-55 from east of Highway 51 along Yandell Road. But there are 10 utilities that are going to be impacted by this project. That's 10. One power company. There are 5 gas companies, 3 telecommunications companies, and 1 water. So it's busy above ground from a traffic perspective, but it's also busy underground as well. We've also got Bear Creek. You all are very familiar with Bear Creek and you know, flooding issues related to that. There are actually 2 hydraulic models that FEMA has for that. And thus, different floodways. You've got the main channel of Bear Creek, and then you've got a tributary. And what we're going to do is combine those 2 models into one. And the purpose for that is to hopefully reduce the length of the bridge that's required. So we'll be working with FEMA on that as we go forward. We'll submit initially a conditional letter of map revision and then a final letter of map revision when the project is completed. Then I mentioned we have Canadian National Railroad. We've reached out to them already. There will be ongoing coordination there as we've got a crossing on the project site. And then we've got the environmental assessment itself. We've begun the, as I mentioned, the H&H, the hydraulic and hydrologic study associated with that. So going to the schedule, our schedule has us completing the environmental assessment in June of 2026. Which is about an 18-month process. We should be complete with design in September of 2027. Then we've got the right-of-way acquisition process and utility relocations. We're looking at bid advertise and award in March of 2029 to June 2029, with construction beginning in the summer of 2029. Sounds like a long time. It is. This is a very complex project. Probably of all the projects on this list, this is the most complex. It's probably one of the shortest, too. It's 7/10 of a mile. But there are a lot of different things that are in play. It looks like right now we'll impact 12 property owners in terms of permanent easements, with 5 temporary construction easements. So I don't foresee a big issue as far as the right-of-way acquisition, but there are a number of things that have to be worked out with numerous agencies as well as the railroad. So are there any questions?
Questions from the board?
One question, he mentioned back when he started mentioning Bear Creek,
Yes, sir.
and bridging and that kind of thing. Have you looked at, any of our, watershed studies on Bear Creek? So we might be able to, if we're gonna do anything with Bear Creek, we wanna make sure that we positively impact it as opposed to have a negative outcome because of it.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
We got
We're in the process of
We
doing
do have
that.
some erosion problems on Bear Creek and private lands, going, north of Weisenberger. Gentleman in the other day talking about what's going on his land because of Bear Creek.
Absolutely. Well, we will not have any adverse impacts as a result of this project. You got a 255-foot-long bridge out there now. It's probably going to lengthen some. We want to minimize that as much as we can, but it probably will lengthen some. Probably going to have to raise it a little bit too. Raise the grade of it as well. But absolutely, we are reviewing those studies that you're talking about, as well as a FEMA model, and we'll incorporate all of that into our H&H study.
Keith, appreciate the update, but you said a lot in a very short period of time, because I know you've been working on this, you and Stan, because we've met with the city of Gluckstadt, with the mayor, get his input as well. But can you give us a little more update on maybe the intersection there, Highway 51, Weisenberger, and Yandell?
Sure.
Something that you're looking into as well?
Good point, Gerald. So we'll have to coordinate with MDOT on that. I think Tim would like to pursue safety funds for a project at that intersection. We'll have to transition turn lanes into Highway 51, so you'll have some turn lanes associated with that. But I think Tim hopes to get some safety money to cover the cost for the construction of the intersection improvements on Highway 51 and Yandell and Weisenberger.
Right. And I say that, or ask that question, because all of this is gonna go on at the same time.
That's
You know,
correct.
as far as the improvement of the intersection, plus, Weisenberger, plus Yandell.
That's
And
right.
so, with Tim, Tim, would you like to say anything else on that amount, or that little small project that is huge?
Well, yeah. Applications are due for that SS4A. Next round of those things are due in March. With the change of administration, that could change, but as of before yesterday, they were due in early March.
Okay.
So we're just taking that as when they're due right now.
Okay. And Keith, again, I just want to reiterate, that's 7/10 of a mile, but the utility companies, railroad that y'all are having to work with and work through, it takes a while.
It does.
You're right.
It does.
It's a lot to that.
And I can assure the board, this is a very high priority project for us. We're all users of that road, frequent users of that road. We understand the importance of it, so we will press forward and move this project along as quickly as possible.
Also, I'm sorry.
On your turn lane you're talking about, especially on the Yandell side, how much more right of way you gonna be looking for? Cause it's pretty tight between the fire station and the business is right across. Is it gonna be room for other turn lanes?
Paul, we're looking at that right now. I think so. Again, we'll have to have some right-of-way. We don't plan on relocating any businesses or anything like that, substations or that type thing. I think we can fit what we need to build into that area without any relocations, but we will have to have some right-of-way.
But working through that plan and thinking ahead, because we can get traffic, once these projects are finished, we can get traffic to Highway 51 into the interstate. But if we can work with MDOT, just like the intersection of this to improve it, it just makes it that much better.
Exactly.
For traffic to move. Also, is it a good time to give a quick update on the third lane on Yandle Road? Or
Yes.
you want to go to Bozeman?
Well, I can give an update on Yandle.
Either way.
Yeah, our plan, right, things are moving along, moving toward right-of-way acquisition, and right now, we plan on bidding that project before the end of this year.
And you're talking about the third lane for Yandle Road?
Correct, yes.
And if that happens, and then construction is about what period of time?
About a year,
Yeah,
about a
12
year.
months.
Yeah.
Okay, and that does include the signal light
That includes a signal at Clarkdale,
at Clarkdale.
correct.
Okay, that will help tremendously, once that is put in place as well. Will not cure the problem or solve the problem, traffic problem, but that will help tremendously,
No question,
so.
no question.
That'll start at the school and go toward 51, Keith.
It will. It will. All right, Bozeman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in terms of what's been accomplished to date, you've probably seen the Yodocs or the orange and white barricades. They've been installed at various points in the project. Survey control has been established by the contractor, Hemp Hill Construction. Perimeter erosion control has been installed in areas where the work is going to take place initially. Fence removal has begun. In terms of what's going to be accomplished over the next 3 months, because the project is just beginning, you're going to see primarily clearing and grubbing, some earthwork and drainage improvements at the intersection of Gluckstadt, the southwest corner of that intersection. You can see some barriers that have been installed in that quadrant, that corner of the intersection so far. And then also the same thing, clearing and grubbing, earthwork and drainage from Reserve Crossing to Reunion Parkway, from the northernmost shopping center drive to Mansdale, and then from Mansdale north to Elizabeth. So you're gonna see, over the next 3 months, a lot of earthwork, weather permitting.
Keith, is Tim the contact person for questions from the community?
He is.
And is there, outside of being on the county website, is there any other way they can get his contact information?
Tim, your thoughts?
No? Like, can I put a sign up?
No, I mean, they can call the engineering office, call the county engineering office, and they'll get me.
Okay, what about if they're usually gonna call the city, and does the city have your contact information?
Yes, the city is aware, and we have spoken with their public works director. He knows to call me. Contractor knows that if anything, that I'm the point of contact. Both cities are aware. Everybody knows if there's problems, to call me.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Tim, just kindly elaborate a little further on that. Y'all have actually had meetings.
Yes, we have
on
coordination.
communication, as far as coordinating the communication out to ensure everyone has the latest updates
Correct.
as
And
well.
as we get, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, and also, at the same time, the work will go on at the same time on the south end of Bozeman at the intersection of Gluckstadt as well, in the city of Gluckstadt. I mean, the work, both projects will be going on at the same time.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And contractor has weekly meetings, and both cities have typically attended, and we also gonna have monthly meetings where both public works directors will be invited. You know, we haven't really started that yet, just because we haven't gotten it too far into it, but we have informed both that we will be.
Yeah.
So,
And we'll all will be getting a lot of phone calls off of this road because it's very busy. And so communication, as we all know, is very important for this. Any update on the phase 2 of Bozeman that you would like to share at this point? Maybe catching you a little cold, but any update there?
Yeah, so, you know, we are continuing with design. I think we're probably 2 years away from, you know, bidding that project based on the fact that we've got to acquire some right-of-way. Not as many parcels as we had to acquire on phase 1. And again, phase 2 goes from Reunion to basically the Gluckstadt, or just south of the Gluckstadt intersection. In other words, the part of Gluckstadt intersection that is included in phase 1. But, you know, we don't have as many parcels. We've still got utilities that to some degree have to be relocated. Some have been relocated, but, you know, I think we're still a couple of years out from that. But again, it's very, very important, you know, as soon as we finish up with this phase 1, that we can move into phase 2.
Okay. But that project's still moving forward
Absolutely.
as well. And before, any other questions for Keith? If not, moving back to Weisenberger, just want to clear a couple things. The cost estimate for that project is approximately 20 million,
I think it's gonna approach that, Gerald.
18 to
Yeah,
20.
I think so.
And this is the one project that we're asking the state to help us with this year.
Correct.
And I do see our lobbyists back there as well, and they know that this is one of our asks for our lobbyists to ask, you know, money from the state to help.
And it's also one of the key focal points for the Madison County Business League and Foundation too, in terms of their support.
Right, correct. Any other questions for Keith? Keith gave us a lot of updates and good information. Appreciate it.
Well, I saw there's a 2-minute limit here in red. I'm sorry I went beyond that.
That just goes to the Board of Supervisors. That's all. It's 2 minutes on us.
Thank y'all.
All right. Tim?
quickly on the Bozeman Road 2. Bozeman Road 2 is technically in the limits of Bozeman Road 1. So the 2-year limit, or 2 years out on Bozeman Road 2, puts us perfectly starting Bozeman 2 when Bozeman Run ends. So that's a perfect timeline.
Good timing.
Okay. Next item will be 2 items. It's Yandell Road from 51 to Smith Car, and then Smith Car to North Old Canton. Same engineer has both of those. That's Wagner Engineering. They're going to give both updates.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Darian Warren with Wagner Engineering, and I have with me Paul Foley, also with Wagner Engineering. He's our Director of Transportation. So we have the privilege of serving as your engineers for the Yandell Road project. Our contracts began on November the 19th, 2024. As Tim mentioned, we have 2 segments, but we are moving forward with the design simultaneously for both segments of Yandell Road. So we're doing the design as one project. The segment Highway 51 to Smith Car roughly is about 1.3 miles. Smith Car to North Old Canton is roughly about 1.6 miles. So combined about 3 miles of roadway. In terms of progress completed to date since we began design, we're early on in the design stages of the project. So roughly we're about 5% complete of the project when compared versus our total budget and what's been billed to date to the county. As we proceeded with the design here recently in this first quarter, our focus has been on primarily the task of right-of-way analysis and parcel impact study, just identifying the right-of-way and what parcels could potentially be impacted by this project. Utility survey, where we've been identifying all of the utilities within the project limits, which roughly, I believe, is about 12 utilities. that we've identified and already been in contact with, such as AT&T, Atmos, Comcast, Bear Creek Water Association, and C-Spire, just to name a few of those. We've also began and currently working on a topographic survey for the project and continuing utility coordination and moving forward with conceptual roadway design efforts. And so this project is a priority for Wagner because we know that it is a priority for the Board of Supervisors. And so we're treating these projects as such. And so in addition to what you already have, I have an additional handout to support the information that you already have related to this project. And if time allows, we'd also like to give an update on Reunion Parkway Phase 2 if time allows. So I'm gonna turn it over to Paul, and I have an additional handout.
You want to go ahead and hand that?
Good morning, Board.
Good morning, Paul.
Just to continue on where Darian left off, in reference to an updated schedule, we provided a handout that showcases a Gantt chart for conceptual design all the way through final design. But in a recap, we've provided a right-of-way analysis which was completed December 2024. We're currently working on a parcel impact study that we anticipate to be done end of this month, early February. We've completed a utility survey as Darian described. I believe there's 12 known utility providers in our corridor with 16 total utilities. Topographic survey should be 100% complete end of February. We're about 50% complete with the surface, the topo, in the total project, which is 100% complete on Highway 51 to Smith Car. Utility coordination efforts have been underway. They will continue to remain underway through our 50% design submittal, where we have a final walkthrough with all the stakeholders, utility providers, et cetera. Conceptual roadway design has begun. We anticipate that being complete June of this year. As we said, there's 12 utilities, 16 utility providers. Utility coordination efforts underway. We're at various stages or phases of that, of outreach. Some utility providers have actually field marked utilities. We're capturing that data live. Utility relocation and our adjustments, time to complete. We're estimating about a year from field review phase, and that projects out to end of Q1, March 2027. Number of parcels within the corridors. So breaking down the two projects, Highway 51 to Clarkdale Road Extension, we've identified 21 total parcels. 8 parcels shall be impacted. Clarkdale Road Extension to Smith Car, we've identified 41 total parcels, with 13 parcels being impacted. Smith Car to North Old Canton, a total of 54 parcels within that corridor, and we anticipate 33 parcels to be impacted. The schedule to acquire right-of-way based on our 100-foot right-of-way that we're providing would be approximately 9 months to 18 months. We're shooting for a 9 to 12 month, but that is an aggressive schedule. What we've accomplished to date is the right-of-way analysis. We completed that Q4, December 2024. We're currently working on right-of-way maps. We have a parcel impact study that's currently in process, anticipated completion date Q1, February 2025. Going into utility survey, that's currently in progress, and we anticipate that being completed Q1 of February 2025. All above ground visible utilities have been collected. 811 calls have been issued, and we have tickets. Topographic survey, as we said, is in process, about 50% complete, 100% complete from 51 to Smith Car Road. We should be starting the Smith Car Road to North Old Canton Road early February. The roadway design aspect, conceptual design phase is currently in process. We anticipate that being completed Q2 of June 2025. But being proactive with this project, treating both projects as one, We've started ahead with the conceptual, I call them front-end type construction plan documents, which includes title sheets, index sheets, general notes, mainline typical sections, miscellaneous sheets. They've all been generated at this time. We have a conceptual horizontal alignment that's in place, and we've started work on the drainage analysis. We've identified 8 potential outfall locations for subsurface closed drainage systems within both project areas. And what we anticipate to be complete by the next board meeting, which will be April 21st of 2025, is we should have the parcel impact study, which includes the right-of-way maps in progress, anticipated completion date end of Q2, June 2025. The topographic survey will be 100% complete throughout the corridor in both project areas. Conceptual roadway design phase will be in progress. It currently is in progress, and anticipated completion date Q2, June 2025. We've begun the environmental documentation process, and we've also started our geotechnical investigation and report. We anticipate both to be complete by the end of Q1, June 2025. And that's my report.
Paul, you said a lot there.
That's a lot said.
Questions from the board?
And you might have answered some of the questions that I got, and I just didn't get it. This will not be a divided median road, will it?
That's correct. 5-lane.
So we'll be able to take it a little to the right and bring it back to a little left.
That's correct, as long as we're within that 100-foot corridor, anticipated right-of-way corridor.
Okay.
Currently, it's 70 feet. We're looking to extend it to 100 feet. And you're right, with that, we want to lessen the impacts for potential negative impacts to parcels and acquisition. So we will meander off that existing center line to mitigate those effects.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking these questions is I done got those phone calls already about this is going to impact my property. And I just told them hopefully we're going to impact as less property as possible. Can you get approximate construction date? Or should I say year?
We anticipate having our final design completed end of Q4 2026. So going into construction would be 3 to 6 months after that. Construction time would probably take 2 years for both projects, 2.5 years.
So you're looking to go into construction in 27.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Can you break it down a little? I know you're treating these 2 projects as one, but can you break it down a little bit from Clarkdale to Highway 51? I see that, I think I'm reading this correctly, that there's 21 total parcels. And you're saying that there's 8 parcels impacted. Tell me what that means.
That means the current existing right-of-way at that location is approximately 70 feet. We're looking to extend it and widen it to 100 foot to accommodate that 5-lane corridor or section through there. We're definitely looking at mitigating negative effects. We're not going to acquire much property, or the impacts will be mitigated to potentially 15 feet on the north side of Yandell and 15 feet on the south side of Yandell. So we're looking at 8 parcels that currently we are over their boundary by just a few feet, 10 to 12 feet.
Okay, so there's 8 parcels that we're gonna need to negotiate to purchase.
That's correct.
Part
Not
of-
total parcels, just a percentage of the
Yes.
overall parcel, that's right.
And so that's basically what we'll need to get from Clarkdale to Highway 51.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay, we just built some new bridges there. How you gonna work that?
So we have bridge engineers on our team. They have a scope of work. We're looking to widen the existing bridges that were just rehabilitated or brand new. It doesn't accommodate the 5-lane section over those 2 bridges, and that's actually in our second segment of the project, which is from Smith Car to North Old Canton. So we look, and Tim and I have had some discussions regarding that effort and kind of what that looks like. We envision those bridges to just be widened.
Widened.
Yes, that's correct. And it should be a minimal effort to do so. Just kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, take away the wing walls and apron and just widen the bridge with bridge deck, widen the piers, et cetera, pile caps.
And I want to make it clear because, you know, with the bridge, because, you know, I think we're all going to get questions asked. Hey, we just built a bridge, as Supervisor Griffin mentioned, but what I'm hearing you say is that we're not going to have to remove that bridge and build a new one. We're just going to widen it or add to it.
That's correct, President Steele.
And also, I'd like to stay on the, from Clarkdale to Highway 51. I want people to, I want to make sure we stress that Neil Schaefer just gave us an update, Keith did, on the extra lane from the school to Highway 51. So that lane will, you know, will be finished, I think they said it, but in 2027. And so that lane will be finished while you're working on the other lane to, you know, for a 5-lane.
So there'll be,
Finish the 5-lane.
that's correct. There'll be some significant design engineer coordination between us and Neil Schaefer. I do have some concerns that I wanted to talk to Tim about in reference to that 3-lane section because it has an open ditch concept, and our 5-lane will be curb and gutter, which is a collection and conveyance to a subsurface closed conduit system. That would be an additional boundary constraint that we would have to work into our design to maintain positive flow for stormwater. We're gonna try to mitigate any negative effects to that. We're gonna try to work with their design as much as possible, but with the understanding that, you know, we may have to reshape that road, introduce some high points to promote positive drainage to these logical outfall points that we described earlier in this presentation.
Yeah, that's something you probably need to get with Tim. You're exactly right. So, other
Yeah.
questions?
I'm trying to think how it gonna look at Clarkdale and, Yandell Road. The 3-lane already been going through it. And there's gonna be a red light put up here. Is there gonna have to add anything else, Tim, to it?
No, so we've designed the signal to where it can accommodate the additional lanes. So it's gonna be able to accommodate the additional width.
Additional lane?
Right.
Okay.
The poles are gonna be set far enough off under the Neil Schaefer project that, they're not gonna have to be moved under the second project that Wagner's doing.
All right, great.
Okay, other questions on Yandell? If not, we will move forward to, I guess, phase 2 on the bridge or Reunion Crossing?
No, the Moon Yandell.
Oh, more on Yandell?
Oh, yeah, we got plenty more.
That's all.
We gotta get to 43.
That's all for Wagner.
That's all for Wagner.
on
Yes,
Yandell.
yes.
So we gotta get to 43.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna get to 43 before the meeting's over with. But that's all that Wagner has at this
Yeah.
point on Yandell.
Yes, sir. So just real brief on Reunion Phase 2 work. Their work is ongoing. The contractor, Hemphill Construction, is making significant progress. Work to date, all curb and gutter has been installed, as well as asphalt. East and west abutments, and as well as steel pilings have been installed on the east side of the bridge over the interstate. All subsurface drainage, except for where Reunion 2 ties into Bozeman Road, that has been installed. Current work that's ongoing is the remaining retaining wall and abutment work, as well as work that's going to support the bridge over I-55. As it relates to contract time, the contract days, roughly is about 230 working days. The estimated completion date, as it stands, we're showing August of 2025, but we're doing everything we can and working with the contractor to try to expedite that. So we say roughly somewhere between July and August of 2025, construction should be complete.
That's this year,
Yes, sir.
2025.
2025, yes, sir.
Correct. Questions from the board? And I would like to just say that, that completion of, July, or August of 2025 on this project includes the intersection of Reunion and Bozeman.
Yes,
That includes that intersection improvement there as well.
That's correct.
yes.
Yeah, this, a lot of times we forget to say that, because that's huge to help move traffic,
Yes, sir.
you know, so.
So in July of 2025, people will be able to go from the east side of the interstate to 51, or west side of the interstate to 51, correct, over the bridge.
That's correct.
That's correct.
That's correct.
But there won't be ramps built until we get the $100 million in funding and the interstate widened, which could take 3 years to complete.
Right, that's correct. Once this construction is completed, it will not include the on-ramps, to provide access to I-55.
The reason why I bring this up is I think there's some confusion that the county's building an interchange and we're building an overpass. The
Correct.
state's building an interchange and widening the interstate, so I don't want people to believe that July 2025, they're gonna be getting on the interstate. Okay, all right, thank you.
That's a good point. That's correct, yes, sir.
And also the opening of phase 3, I think will be finished by the end of February, as well, from what I understand, Tim.
That's the current timeline.
Yes. And so, Keith, I see you still in the back. Would you come up and maybe, just, talk a little about the, interstate, widening of the interstate? Because I think y'all are actually doing the engineering on the, from 463 to Gluckstadt. Can you just give us a quick update?
Yeah, I almost left. Maybe I should have.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Yeah, we have a contract with MDOT to design that project. So you'll have 6 through lanes and ramps to Reunion Parkway as part of that. I think, as Commissioner Simmons stated at the Madison County Business League and Foundation breakfast last month, it is one of MDOT's highest priorities.
Right.
You know, they're pursuing what looks like probably $130 million in funding to build that project. We are in design on it, pretty far along. We have about a 70% set of plans for that project. So we'll be ready to go as soon as that funding is secured. You know, it's hard to put a date on it right now, but I think the hope is to, you know, move that project forward into construction sometime in 2026.
Right. And with that number that you mentioned, 130, you know, I've heard up to high as 150 to 200 million.
Yeah.
Don't know what that number is, but either way, we are on the highest priority list, you know, for the state, I do believe, from what we've been told by the Lieutenant Governor.
So Keith, the state owns the land, you've done environmentals, and you're 75% done with the design?
That's correct. About 7, yeah, close to that. Yeah.
So y'all are moving on pretty good.
We
So
are.
Hopefully, if the money is secured, it should go to construction by year end. Or could.
Yeah, I'm still, I think probably 2026, sometime in
Okay.
2026 would probably be a little bit more accurate.
And which would include the ramps, once it does.
It does include the ramps. That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Other questions for Keith? Thank you for that update,
Sure.
Keith.
Thank y'all.
Next update is the intersection of Yandell Road and North Old Canton. That's going to be given by representatives from Benchmark Engineering.
All right.
Oh, gotcha.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Lon Burke, Benchmark Engineering and Surveying. We're working on the Yandell Road at North Old Canton Road Intersection Improvements Project. Our contract was executed on November the 18th, 2024. Since that time, we began and are nearly complete with the initial topographic survey. We have contacted our geotech subconsultant They are scheduled to perform the field work in, I believe, February and complete that work with a report by April of 2025. Excuse me. Our contract amount, as you can see in your board packet, includes the work to be performed in our project limits, which is widening to tie into the Yandle Road 5-lane on each side, that being the Wagner section and Pickering section, as well as improving North Old Canton Road on the north and south side to have turn lanes. There will also be a signal proposed at the intersection. So over the next 3 months, we plan to have all preliminary engineering documents for MDOT complete. We plan to have environmental underway, geotech completed, be 50% complete with our bridge widening plans, which is targeted to be bid and completed before the rest of the project advertises. As you know, this is a LPA project that extends the life of the project, you know, utilizing federal funds and so on. So our goal is to widen the bridge on Yandle Road and have that completed. In addition to that, we plan to have field review plans for the rest of the project complete by the end of this year. And we plan to bid out the overall project, the LPA portion of the project, by October of next year.
Okay.
October next year?
So,
You said October next year?
yes, sir.
And the construction project estimate time would be,
Right now, 8 to 12 months, give or take.
a little
to
early to
determine.
call?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And again, go over exactly where this project is.
So this project is at the intersection of Yandle Road and North Old Canton Road. Our limits include approximately 300 to 400 feet on each side on Yandle Road, and then North Old Canton to the extents necessary to widen for the intersection improvements.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I don't know, the question be to you or be to Tim. I think a couple weeks ago, it might have been last week, I saw some utility company put in new utility there. Are we going to have to move utilities? Do we need to put a stop on those utilities right now?
You've seen gas going in and you've seen fiber going in. We've told both of them that we are widening the roads and that they may have to move their stuff in the coming 2 years. And both of them have elected to continue on with what they're doing. They're within the limits of right-of-way, so when we get to that point, then they will have to remove their stuff on their dime. But they are both aware.
Okay, that's right.
Tim, as well, and I know your work with Supervisor Griffin, communications is very important to the HOAs up and down Yandle Road and around Deerfield.
Right.
So communication is very important to get that out, you know, to those HOAs. Okay. Other questions? If not, are you prepared to give a quick update on Wheatley Street?
Yes, sir, be glad to.
Because I think the city of Ridgeland contracted with y'all to do the Wheatley Street.
We did.
project.
Late last year, we executed a contract on Wheatley Street reconstruction and overlay in the city of Ridgeland. We just completed the initial survey on that with some underground utilities lacking due to utility marking, which remains a problem. Over the next month, we plan to develop conceptual plans, have a couple of different options based on cost estimates, and determine the most economical option based on the money the county provided to the city. And then by late May of 2025, we plan to advertise the project for construction.
By late May of 25?
Yes, sir.
And this is, this street here is no right-of-way to be purchased?
Very limited,
Or
probably.
utilities to be
That's right.
moved? So that's the reason you can go
Yes, sir,
to
that's the
construction
goal.
very quickly?
that's correct.
And again, that construction, the length of time would be approximately how long?
Approximately 6 to 12 months to be determined as we get into design a little further.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, y'all gonna dig out some of that Yazoo clay and on Eaton Street. You
That's the
go
plan.
up and down.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I hope it's gonna dig out a lot.
That's
We'll be
right.
back.
Okay. Thank you for the update.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
It always comes back.
Always.
All right, final two updates are going to be Yandell Road from North Old Canton to Bainbridge Crossing, and then Bainbridge Crossing to Highway 43. Both of these projects were awarded to Pickering Engineering.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Rick?
Come on, Pickering.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Rick Ferguson with Pickering Farm. We were contracted to do the two easterly Yandell projects. As Tim mentioned, I'm going to, for clarity, I'm just going to refer to them as the West Project and the East Project. The West Project is the project that picks up on the, from the end of Benchmark's intersection project, goes past Bainbridge. Contract time, our contract was executed. We got a notice to proceed on November the 4th. You see the contract information. The work that was completed during this first reporting period, it's a common theme with all the reports that you've heard. We've got the started the topo survey. We did have a kickoff meeting with Tim to kind of go over some particulars. The topo mapping and utility survey is underway. You've seen a bunch of utility markings out there. You can see from your report, we did an 811 call. There are a lot of utilities in that segment. From what we have seen on the ground, all of those are located inside existing right-of-way. So to repeat what Tim said previously, that if they are needed, that they need to be relocated, they will be relocated at the utility's expense, barring some obscure agreement back in the day that said that they didn't have to pay for it. Right-of-way acquisition on that West Project, approximately 20 parcels. We went through there and looked at our corridor and counted approximately 20 parcels. It could be a little bit less, it could be a little bit more, but we're not anticipating any relocations. We're just buying strips of land. We have the liberty through that segment if we can, you know, weave back and forth. I mean, the original concept was 5-lane, but having conversations with Tim, you know, we have an area that's got fences on both sides. So there's no need to put a turn lane if there's nowhere to turn to. So we're going to be looking at situations like that throughout the entire corridor to see if we can minimize this footprint. Work plan for the next reporting period, we're going to finish up the topo and utility survey. We're going to get Burns Cooley out there rolling on the geotechnical investigation. One of the area, this stretch of Yandell is not unlike what you mentioned, Supervisor. We have a lot of bumps we got to worry with. There's some Yazoo clay, there's some issues there. And part of the scope is we're going to do a lot of undercutting and base repair on both of our projects to finish some of those issues. We will begin work in the next reporting period on the field review plans, which will put us at about 60%. At that point, we will know what our final right-of-way impacts will be, and then we will be able to sit down and provide that information to Tim. Back to utilities, you know, we've reached out to all the utilities. What has been marked as being picked up. Kind of reiterate what I reported when we've had the kickoff thing, that utilities is going to be the driving force on a lot of this. Most of these utilities, as I said, are inside existing right-of-way, and they're going to want to be, when they move, they want to be inside the existing right-of-way. Some will put their relocated utilities on private easements, but most will be inside your right-of-way. So you're going to have to buy that right-of-way before they can get out there and start relocating their utilities. I estimate for each utility, we're going to go through the plan review, their permit review process. I mean, review their plans, make sure what they're proposing is not in conflict with any of our proposed construction, and that's roughly about 15 days per utility, but once the permit is approved and it's turned over to them, it's kind of on their schedule. Moving to the east segment, received the notice to proceed the same date. Kickoff meeting, we killed two birds with one stone, talked about both projects that one meeting. Similar timeline that we're on. We're treating these as one project right now. There will be a point where they deviate into, especially a right-of-way acquisition point. The west project will become and be put on a faster timeline. Work plan next reporting period is finish up the topo and utility and begin work on the field review plans, which, like I said, will establish our right-of-way impacts. Right-of-way, approximately 40 parcels on that west project, same thing. We don't anticipate any relocations. We're just buying strips of land. It's going to be a situation where we try to minimize the impacts to right-of-way or land and utilities. If it'll be a combination of widening symmetrically, widening one way, widening the other, all the other way. Same thing on we have more utilities on the east side than the west. A lot of the same players there. We still, one thing, I may have mentioned this at the previous meeting, of course, this is the area where we tie into 43 near the Trace property. So we have significant issues there. That's where it comes in. That will be a cultural issue because that's all national park land, and we cannot impact that. So that will tell you that any improvements that we make to Yandell at that intersection will have to be to the west. So that's my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, just start from the last thing you said about coming into Highway 43, moving to the west. That is a deep gully there, and right on to the right is some type of little park or something. So yeah, you would have to go to the west. The other thing, Tim, this might be for yours too. Right in front of Deerfield is not their main interest, but on the opposite side, we got this big subdivision coming in. Don't we supposed to be putting turn lane, maybe a light there? Is that included in his?
And the subdivision, I believe you're talking about is Woodgate?
Woodgate.
Yeah, Woodgate.
Right. There will be a turn lane for that subdivision. Now, if we put a turn lane in there and then we put a 5-lane section in there 9 months later and spend that money doing that, I don't know if that's the best use of that funds. We may come back and incorporate those funds into this project. We're still discussing how we're going to do that.
How you gonna handle that?
Right. Because, taking that and then building something and then turning around 9 months later and taking it out is probably not the best use of funds.
Okay.
So we're still discussing how we're gonna use those funds.
Oh, great.
Okay.
When y'all make that decision, let us know, cause people out there
But
go.
ultimately, there will be a turn lane going into that subdivision.
Okay.
And Tim, also, just staying on that topic there at Woodgate, the developer has committed a certain amount of dollars. And that's basically what you're what you're saying is to where to use those dollars
Correct.
most wisely. So
Correct.
the developer still has a commitment there on the dollar amount. It's just
Yes.
use them wisely with this construction going on.
Yes, sir.
And Rick, one thing that I see here, just want to clear up, is it 40 parcels from Old Canton Road to 43?
No, sir. It's 20 from, on the west portion, which is from where our project starts on near North Old Canton Road to just past Bainbridge. That's 20.
Okay.
And then the east project is 40.
Okay, so it's 60 total for
60
that
total.
project. Okay, other questions? All right. Rick, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Yes.
You bet.
Definitely.